They teach you how to use emotions to arrive at the same decision. But for effective public policy and governance, you need a dual application despite the latent contradiction that is a dilemma of later-day democratic leadership. Madam Speaker, we are at a very historic moment as a country because we have an opportunity to decide the future, gauging at how we have been able to perform the functions as stipulated in the 2010 Constitution. Indeed, as it has been said, that the BBI provides us with an opportunity to have a constitutional moment, a consensus towards the future of our country. I want to declare from the outset that I was very much involved in the development of the BBI draft bill in instances where, for example, myself, Senator Wetangula, Senator Dulo, and Senator Ochilo Ayako represented the Senate in the hearings of the BBI at KICC. Further, when the bill came out, I was very much disappointed because it didn't have provisions for persons with disabilities other than providing for the 5% generic principle as provided for in Article 54, Subarticle 2, with regards to political representation. But, Madam Speaker, I was able to lobby very hard to the extent that now the BBI bill has got 4 slots representing persons with disabilities in the National Assembly, 2 men and 2 women. And for me, that is exactly a very big gain looking at what was not there before. However, Madam Speaker, I stand here as somebody who represents people who are actually underrepresented. On one hand, I am the Senator for Persons with Disabilities, together with my sister, Gertrude Musuruve. And I think that's a model that was adopted to have a man and a woman to represent each and every county by the drafters of the bill. A huge constituency across the country that really is highly underrepresented and under-resourced are people who really are yet to have a true voice in the democratization and equality of opportunity in this country. That is on one hand. Our African fathers and ethos require that when you are a leader in a community, and if you are also ambitious, then you must also provide that leadership in the locality where you belong, despite your status, whether man, woman, disability, youth, and all of that. And for the last 8 years or so, I have been trying to provide leadership from where I come from in the county of Kiambu, in particular, the constituency of Ruiru. In Ruiru constituency, Madam Speaker, we have 490,120 residents or people within a very small, radius of square kilometers. Madam Speaker, all of these individuals are underrepresented because a similar population of a county like Vihiga has 475,000 people. It has a governor, it has a senator, women rep, 5 members of parliament, MCAs, and all of that. Every day of my life, Madam Speaker, I fight to represent a people and doing the work of a member of parliament who is missing in the equation. This is a reality that I have to face, and many others who come from hugely populous constituencies, and yet it's a zero-sum game, Madam Speaker, because that constituency will only have 1 member of parliament at any given point in time. Despite the fact that, Madam Speaker, resources in this country are actually shared using the political units. Madam Speaker, Ruto deserves actually 4 members of parliament. If you calculate with a threshold of 132,000, Ruto will be 3.71 members of parliament. If you round off to the nearest 10, those would be 4 members of parliament. And that would be closer to the Vihiga matrix of 475,000 people with about 5 members of parliament, Madam Speaker. And so therefore, BBI has proposed some historical, some rebalancing of historical injustice to the effect that those who come from populous communities have also to be represented. And one may ask why this matters. It is because for every shilling given to a constituency, it matters how much a child gets for their bursary. While in Ruto, somebody will actually get 275 shillings based on last year's application of about 80,000 genuine applicants. In other places, someone gets about 54,000 from the same kitty. This is totally unfair. And if it is allowed to follow, it will actually end up creating serious imbalances and injustices. And I believe it is time for that to be corrected, Madam Speaker. If you look at how we allocate money for roads under the Kenya Rural Roads Authority, our members of the defense forces, the police, we recruit based on these political units that are called constituencies, and in the administration they are called sub-counties. And so therefore, it would have been a novelty, Madam Speaker, if our political system would have allowed that we should not share resources based on political representation. It would have been an easier way to resolve this problem. But now that BBI has actually proposed to entrench CDF into the Constitution, now that the current formula for sharing resources is equal amount of money to all the 290 constituencies, it will therefore follow, Madam Speaker, that then those who are highly underrepresented in the current format of government through the gerrymandering that has been done by past administration, this historical injustice need to be corrected. And so therefore, in that regard, and espousing the various challenges that I see on a daily basis, trying to resolve people's problems by providing for school fees, issues to do with Medicare and all of that, I think for me, the 70 proposed constituencies, if well distributed, would actually cure this problem, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the second issue I would want to address is the issue of the underrepresentation of persons with disabilities in this country. And for a very long time, Madam Speaker, persons with disabilities have been treated as people who do not deserve to be at the center of decision making. Even here in Parliament, the nomination slots that are there, they are basically sinecure. This is what I call governmenting, where you create a position in government to resolve a problem without resolving that same problem, Madam Speaker. I have tried many times to ensure that there is equity between those who represent special interest groups cure the inequality, the unfairness in the first part of the process, Madam Speaker. However, it has become traditional that we have actually entrenched discrimination in our systems and structures of representation, so that then those who are nominated are actually a second tier of leaders in this country. The BBI draft bill, the initial one, had actually removed all of the positions that would have guaranteed representation for persons with disabilities. And one would ask, then what would they serve if you are in a position where you are actually served and also underrepresented? You're actually not seen as an equal. You are unequal to your colleagues in Parliament. It serves right. It serves right because you are able to demonstrate that people like yourself can be leaders, Madam Speaker. I am very much proud of the fact that I have served both in the National Assembly and the Senate to represent persons with disabilities, and that has made a difference. Right now, as we speak in this Senate, I am the senator with the highest number of votes, of bills, 5 of them, as per the last count. And through this representation, we are able to change the narrative of how people perceive us because of discrimination and stigma. People are able to see, members of parliament and senators who are like them, and therefore they are able to stand up and be counted, that they too count in this society. But Madam Speaker, having said that, if I look at the composition under the BBI, I am very proud because we have the first loss in the National Assembly, something that I had proposed in the 11th Parliament, but it was overtaken by events, is now part of the BBI. But we lost in the Senate with regards to the fact that the two nominated senators, a man and a woman, those positions have been scrapped, Madam Speaker. And so if BBI passes, I'll be the last to have served in both houses to represent people with disabilities. Yet, the Senate has got an advantage because we are fewer here. It is easier to introduce bills. It's easier to introduce motions. It's easier to make something current matter in real time because of the nature of the Senate. Now, with the removal of that because of the repealing of Article 123, Madam Speaker, it means that then persons with disabilities, not unless one of them is elected as a senator, and it's very difficult, or a woman senator, they will not be represented in this august House, Madam Speaker. And that, for me, is a loss. It's a loss because I think even when there would have been equality of vote amongst the 47 senators, Madam Speaker, it would have been good to have the two representatives of persons with disabilities, possibly two of the youth, and maybe another two of the ethnic minorities, to make the House to be 100 people, so that they can be the voice of persons who are actually marginalized, to the effect that even if they don't have to vote as part of delegation, but they can still canvass, they can still lobby, they can still introduce bills and motions to the benefit of their constituents, Madam Speaker. Why so? Because the Senate, as envisaged in the BBI, will be a much bigger Senate in terms of the monies that is going to oversight. The Senate, as envisaged in the BBI, will also be vetting members of various commissions. So some of these issues, Madam Speaker, would of course have benefited from the inclusion and participation of persons with disabilities. And that is to mean, therefore, if you look at the 5% representation in the Senate, then that threshold will not actually be achieved. However, Madam Speaker, I also want to say that when it comes to the county assemblies, currently, persons with disabilities are not properly represented. It is imperative that Article 177(1)(c) of the Constitution be implemented by amending the current provisions of the County Governments Act as to provide for a man and a woman or to represent persons with disabilities in all of the 47 county assemblies, so as to ensure that representation is guaranteed within the laws of Kenya as provided for by the Constitution, but the enabling legislation did not get it right. And that is something that we should pursue as a Senate and ensure that it is done before the next general elections. Madam Speaker, there is the issue of the expanded executive. This country is a very interesting country because we have ethnicized our politics so much to the extent that people feel actually entitled to certain positions based purely, not any other qualification, but on their ethnicity. And as a result, the BBI proposes a consensus where we create the position of Prime Minister, President, Deputy, and the two deputies. And true to it, if you look at our ethnic conglomeration, then 67% of this country comes from what the so-called 5 ethnic groups. I prefer to call them ethnopolitical derivatives because they're not really ethnic groups. They can't speak the same language in one sitting like this. But it's a political identity, so they are ethnopolitical identities. And then the question would be, if then that is what will make the country to move forward, so be it. If that is what is going to make us not fight, so be it. However, there are two things that arise from this conversation, Madam Speaker, or this consensus. Is that number one, how do you make sure that you disperse power of the presidency without emasculating the presidency itself, so that you do not end up with a weak president who cannot command any respect? That's on one side. On the other, how do you make sure that you have offices that are functional, that do not have an all too powerful president. By the way, beyond the president, the most powerful position of the president, in my opinion, is the Attorney General, because he will sit in the judiciary as a JSC commissioner, he will be a full cabinet minister in the executive, and he will also be a member of parliament, a full member of parliament. So in terms of power relations, it will be a question of power dynamics. But as I conclude, Madam Speaker, I think that is a good compromise. But I want to say this because I can see my time is over. That